What's up, y'all? How's my hat? Uh, it's a tight squeeze with these headphones, but I'm making it work. I got some. I don't know if I had these last week, but I got some little Christmas lights. Steph, how are you? Got some snowmen. I'm in the Christmas spirit. Having a 2-year-old certainly helps. He is compared to last year, he's a lot more aware of what's going on with Christmas, and he's super stoked. He's all about the Advent calendar, all of the Christmas decorations. We visited Santa twice last weekend. There were a couple local opportunities to hang out with Santa, so he's not really asking for stuff yet. We did this breakfast with Santa where they gave this little slip of paper where you could write like 5 things that you want for Christmas, and he just filled in one item, and it was choo choo. So I think we have that covered. Yeah, he's adorable, and we're having a lot of fun with him this holiday season. So uh, yeah, let's get into it. I really don't have a ton to chat about. I think I'm just gonna hop into this Advent of CSS. But for those of you who aren't aware, maybe watching the VOD or I don't know if there's someone here besides Steph. Office hours is a little ritual that I do at my job at Provi, where I am a uh, design systems engineer. And every Wednesday we have an hour set aside where people can drop in and ask questions about the design system or CSS, or occasionally just if no one has any questions, they can just pop in and watch me work and ask me questions about kind of my process. And sometimes we'll pair on stuff and figure stuff out together. And it's been really useful in kind of socializing the design system to the point where like now developers can go to other developers to ask questions about the system and not just me. Um, and sometimes I'll use that time to just catch up on all of the bookmarks that I found on Twitter. I don't know if I have a lot of good ones this week. Let me just check real quick. I mean, nothing exciting. I'm in mostly like Christmas shopping. But yeah, I have an item here that just says, "Where did the week go?" I don't even know what I did this week. I feel like the whole week escaped me. Um, but vibe check. It's another ritual we do is in our design systems meeting where I meet with designers every week. We do a little vibe check to just kind of see how everybody's feeling, and if someone's like a 4 or 5, we just kind of steer clear, try not to engage in any arguments. But today I'm probably like a 9. It's Friday. I've got 2 more days before I go on vacation, which I guess is really my only win this week, is that I'm looking forward to going on vacation. I don't really have any plans. I have to take my PTO. Ben, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, so yeah, I'm hoping to just catch up on my honey-do list, which I have here. Let's see. I have to get my COVID booster. I have to do a bunch of stuff related to my car. I have to like get an emissions test and update my registration and my city sticker. I gotta get my oil changed. I got just a bunch of stuff around the house. Um, what else? Yeah, just a bunch, household stuff, and maybe do some catch up on some movies and TV. Certainly do some video gaming. I've been playing a lot of the Halo Infinite campaign this week that launched, I think, on Wednesday. And there's a brand new Warzone map that I dipped into briefly, which is wildly different. I don't know if I like it or not yet, but play a little bit of that. And I got some blogging to do. So I usually do these end of year recaps. So like here's 2020, uh, where I just kind of talk about stuff that happened in the year before. kind of highlights of the year, and then I talk about things that I loved in that year, as far as like movies, television, video games, kind of the three big ones. Sometimes I'll talk about podcasts, but really since the pandemic started, I haven't been able to. I haven't been. It's really cut into my podcast listening time because I don't drive as much. Um, I had a section last year called "Heroes of the Pandemic," with just people who kind of amused me through what was really a dark period before we had these vaccines. Aaron, how are you? Good to see you. And like things I'm looking forward to in the year ahead, and then I usually close it with like a little pick of the family, which we don't really have this year. We were kind of lax on that, so we'll probably do more of like a holiday collage for our Christmas card. But yeah, so I've been doing these now for I don't know the past 3 years or so, and it's kind of a fun little recap. Helps me kind of remember what that year was all about, and uh, yeah, so I'll be writing one of those up, and I've been kicking around some ideas for some more design system-y stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I'll be doing on vacation. We'll see what gets done. I may or may not stream during that time. I'm sure everyone will be busy hanging out with their families, so I might just wait until the end of the year. But yeah, where did the week go? I don't know about y'all, but Decembers are weird. Like when I was at Groupon for many years, everything kind of revolved around Black Friday. So everyone was like in high gear, and then Black Friday would happen, and then everybody would just kind of like and sigh or exhale. Uh, hey, thank you for the gifted sub, Ben. Steph, welcome to the I don't know what we call this community yet. The Idle Posse. I don't know. Uh, we'll have to brainstorm there. But yeah, so December's people would kind of just check out. There'd be some meetings about like what are we doing in Q1, but largely people would just shut it down. Steph, you now have access to the Gino and Emily emotes, and you can also do exclamation point Gino and summon Gino, like so. Um, Provi's a little bit different, I think, because we're kind of more of an early stage startup. There's and particularly we have some newer folks. There's a lot more kind of ambition and eagerness there, and so I have to kind of tell people to take it down a notch. I'm like, guys, we're not curing cancer here. We're just slinging booze on the internet. So I think it can wait till January. But that being said, like no one has really asked me for a lot of big things in the last couple months until they found out I was going on vacation. And like, oh shit, we got to get this stuff in under the wire. So I got like a big prototype that I got to finish. And yeah, fortunately, we have a new designer on board who actually, funny enough, was at a Clarity conference with me. And then I literally interviewed her like the following week. And now we've hired her, and she's been just a wonderful addition to the team. She's has design systems experience, and she's kind of just. I told her just take our UI kit and run with it, and she has done that, and she's very she's already just like kind of hit the ground running. So that's been exciting. Ben says, at my old role in a bank, the last thing we wanted was to mess with people's money around the holidays. Yes. So from mid-November to the end of the year, we were on a release freeze. Yeah. Yeah, I think people just don't want to be like fixing bugs on Christmas, right? So like everybody just shut it down. But yeah, technical debt. I usually just am completely mentally checked out by this time of year. And you know, dealing primarily with CSS, there's not like a ton of urgency. Like the site's not going to crash if like a button is has the wrong border radius, right? So I tend to just kind of I don't know, just mentally check out. Hopefully my boss isn't watching, but I mean, I still get my shit done. If you ask me to do something, I'll do it. But you know, I'm not gonna be like, hey, let me work on a bunch of tech deck right now. That's just not me, man. But I applaud you for approaching it that way. No dev wants to be working over Christmas, but also no one wants their bank changing everything on them. That is true. Ryan, how are you? Good to see you. Um, we got the whole front end horse community up in here. Um, but yeah, uh, yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say next, but let's just jump in here. So last week I did we were talking about Advent of CSS, which I finally got to like an hour into the stream. Didn't leave me a lot of time to work on the actual thing. And what I said at the time was like, this, first of all, this site is lovely. It's friggin' amazing, and I love it. They certainly devoted a lot of time in putting this together. But however, the thing that I found, and we've talked about this in the Discord, but the challenges are pretty intense. Like, this isn't like, Advent of Code where, people are flinging these off in 15 minutes, right? This is like work, like an actual, like, this is more work than my actual job, really. So day one was like this timer, and I had done that, and it took me, I probably spent like 3 hours on it, and I didn't even do the JavaScript part. Day two, I started to work on last week, and I did cheat a little and do a little bit off screen just to kind of tidy things up a little, but we can talk about that. Let me widen this a little bit so that you can actually read my stuff here. So last week, the idea here is basically like I wanted to take this. And here's let me show you the Figma of what we're building here. So this is the thing here. Let me kind of zoom out, zoom to fit. So here's the thing. It's basically like a food ordering app, right? And really, I'm just focusing right now on the actual pages. So I wanted to approach this like I would approach a design. If I came into this company and they're like, we're launching this thing and we want to make a design system. And so this is kind of how I would approach it, right? And so what we have here is, I think I just started extracting, if I'm not mistaken, last week, I just started extracting values from the Figma to get some of these. And I would probably, I still have yet to do this, but I would convert all these to HSL just for consistency. I noticed here, this is another thing. For these light card colors, they're actually using opacity. You're using RGBA, where the A is the alpha transparency. And so this is like a solid color, but with 0.2 opacity. So if I like change this first one to 1, this would be like a crazy dark color. Well, I guess it's not that dark, but I would want this to just be a solid color without opacity, because what the issue is if I were to say, let's see, I can do this in my card background color. If I were to just change this to black, right, then those colors are, the transparency is based on the background color, right? And so those colors look a lot different with like a different background color. So we probably don't want that. And so I would probably convert those to like a solid color. I pulled in, I think off stream, I pulled in the Poppins font, which was just on Google Fonts, so that was easy. We pulled out the different font sizes, font weights, and line heights that are in use. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm using the feature to inform what goes in the system, right? So if I zoom in here, this, by the way, is a great trick that I learned that works in actually several apps. If you hold down Z while you pick an area, it will zoom in on that exact area. I literally learned this like just this year, and it has changed my life. So I say this because to a lot of people this might have been obvious, but I have literally, I have talked to my friend Mike about this, who may be lurking in the chat, I don't know. but we talked about how in interviews he's seen people uh, copy and paste by right-clicking the mouse, like highlighting text, right-clicking the mouse, copy, go in the thing, right-click, paste. And if I saw someone do that, I would immediately say uh, something like, hey, did you know there's a keyboard shortcut for that? And I feel like if you're using the mouse to do that, and you don't know that, like you do know that there's a keyboard shortcut, that's already a red flag for me. But if by chance you didn't know that, you know, Command C and Command V is copy paste, that's like a life changing thing. And I've had people like thank me for, even if you don't get the job, now you know Control C and Control V, right? Or Command C, Command V. And so, yeah, so this is like another one of those shortcuts where it's like, wow, this is life changing. But anywho, what else? So we have things like border widths, right? Like the pixel width. And some of these are derived from this other screen that we'll be working on in a second. Spacing values, elevation, right? So this kind of informs the shadows of various things. This is for the card itself, I believe. So we have these global tokens, which are like all the values in our system. I also added this icon size medium for the check mark. This is interesting. This is like the empty state, right? I want this. This is kind of the state that I was working from. And then we have contextual tokens, which rather than just like hard coding all of our global values in there and then needing to change something and having to like find and replace border radius medium instead of 20 pixels, that really isn't super helpful. But if or I guess border radius is not a great example, but say our background brand color, like let's say we change our brand color, it's no longer purple, it's like orange or something, right? So this helps us do two things. It helps us control how we change colors across multiple things without necessarily doing everything, right? Like we don't want to just change color purple 600 to like orange, right? We would make a new token called color orange 600 maybe, and then we would change the context in which that brand color is used. So maybe we only want to change it for background colors and not for text, for example. We could do that via these contextual tokens. And then component tokens is kind of this third layer where we're literally defining every single property in a single component so that we can change it at a very granular level. So this gives us kind of 3 levels of control. We can control stuff globally where it affects everywhere that thing appears, contextually in certain situations across multiple components, and then component tokens on individual components, right? So I can go in here and change all the properties of a button without touching any CSS or HTML. That's the idea. So this is great if you want to do a rebrand. And Dan Mall had a great tweet thread about this, an article today. Let's see, Twitter, Dan Mall. If you're not following Dan, you should, because he is very generous with his insights and also awesome photography as well. But he had a thread today. And I think he just put it in a blog post. Design systems prepare you for change. And basically he talked about these kind of touchstones in a company's lifecycle where like having a design system is super helpful. And for a lot of companies, that's also a point where they decide, hey, we should do a design system, because that makes future types of these touchstones like a lot easier, right? So like a rebrand, for example, if you did a rebrand without a design system, it might be this like all hands on deck, months long process. Whereas if you had a design system in place, you can literally just go in here and update these tokens. And like we already built all the buttons and stuff. We just want to change the colors, the type scale, the font, all that stuff can be controlled in these tokens. And it's maybe a week-long effort that only you know, a few people have to get involved with. But anyways, I'm gonna post this in the chat. Highly recommend this article if you do design systems work or anything tangentially related to design systems work. Yeah, Dan's got some great stuff around design systems. And yeah, so what else? Oh, also, like you'll notice for this kind of active thing, like rather than having an SVG in the element, I'm actually using a background image that is a SVG that's been URL encoded. So this allows me to include assets like SVGs that are used in the system's components, include that right in the CSS so that we don't actually need external assets. And that just really is helpful in keeping things consistent so that people are all using the right check mark, they're all using it in the right proportions and everything, and all that's controlled in the system and not in the markup or in like the like code component, right? So we've got the old mic app ratio reset here, which is just box sizing border box, margin 0 on everything, and font inherit on everything. And that lets me be kind of very deliberate about spacing values and well, at least margins between components and fonts, particularly like headings. Like I want the headings to be chosen for semantics and not for their visual styles. So we apply the visual styles using the classes rather than just kind of using the default browser styles. And yeah, so you'll see here, like this is almost, I don't know why I did this. Let's do color background surface. You'll notice almost everything in here is a token, right? So, you know, we have some properties like flex and position relative and stuff like that. But aside from that, all the other values are represented by tokens. So we can quite literally change the look and feel of this just by updating these tokens. And I've also prefixed this with a kind of scope these under Advent of code, right? So this is something I do with projects so that if you're coming into a project where there's existing CSS, by scoping all this to AOC, we're guaranteed we're not going to have any like conflicts with, oh, there's already a heading 1, right? And ours is conflicting with existing stuff and breaking stuff. So this way, any new stuff gets this prefix, and we're guaranteed that it's going to get these styles, right? You know, so we have like we've got our heading style, we've got our card, which is the kind of top level card that all of this exists within, and then we have these menu items. And within those menu items, there's, you know, some stuff on the image, some stuff on the button to just kind of position it. But also like the button itself has its own class, AOC button. It's not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, although it could be. Maybe this is her website. She's thinking ahead beyond her political career to get into you know, food delivery. Which reminds me, I think my lunch is here. I will be right back. Pardon me. All right, back. All right, Ben is taking over. In conclusion, CSS. Man, I wish it were that easy. Now with more antics, not just some, but more than you were expecting. It's great to have you all here today. I hope your Friday is going well and that you're not working too hard. Obviously, you're here, so you're not working too hard. This is weird. They give you a straw, but there's no straw hole. It's like almost like a coffee lid, which I'm fine with. If I never have to use another straw in my life, I'm fine with that. Anyway, I've got an Italian sandwich, which I may or may not. I don't know. I might have to turn off my camera so that. I mean, I feel like the Elephant Man when I'm eating. Like, don't look at me. Um, sorry. I don't know what I was talking about. Um, so yeah, we got our button. We've got this kind of active state where we're including the check mark is the icon. We need to find some icon sizes there. We're positioning that inside the span within the button. And yeah, so this is where we're at. I mean, this is the whole design system right now is less than 200 lines of Sass. And you know, once you compile this, all of these lines would not even be part of it. So it's really like a little over 100 is our CSS framework for this this project. And of course, we're going to add to that. But already we've got this system where like everything can be styled using classes, right? A combination of component classes such as AOC card, AOC heading, right? Oh, something just happened. I don't know what. I heard like Ben Holmes is following me on Twitch. Ben, welcome to the I don't know, the Idol fam. I don't know. I don't know what we're calling the community yet. I'm just gonna make up a new thing every time. Thank you for being here. And then we have stuff like I think I added some utilities, right? Okay, so we have like this stack 40 that puts 40 pixels of margin on everything, and then we have flow, which I I stole from Andy Bell. The idolizers, I like that. I got to get some new emotes made up. We've got this flow class, which you could put on a parent element, and all the children except for the last child get bottom margin, so that you don't have to apply the stack utility on every single one. This leans a little too. I know already the brand Peruvian Idol is a little kind of narcissistic, I guess maybe. Although it's not really. It's not American Idol. I think I've talked about this before. I'm bringing it out. So if you have children in the room, this is the Peruvian Idol in question, and my logo is actually this, but with my face and without the giant penis. I mean, in the logo at least. But that's the kind of the genesis of the Peruvian Idol. It was not a spin on American Idol. Yeah, this is a pretty laid back cult, you know, like you know, I mostly am just here to shoot the shit. Like if this is as popular as the stream gets, I'm perfectly fine with that, because I read an article about like Twitch streamers who are like super popular. Like we're talking like they have millions of followers, and at any given time there's tens of thousands of people watching them, and like you can't even keep up with the stream, right? I don't know if you've ever seen some of these like gaming ones, but it's just a hot mess of you know, people yelling at you and making fun of you and spamming emotes, and I mean much like here, but much faster, right? And these folks are like streaming for like, you know, 8-10 hours a day every day, and then they're like cutting that up into clips to put on YouTube, and they're tweeting, and and it's like this whole thing. And if you take a day off, you're literally missing. There it is. We get some tuna spam in the chat. I love it. You take a day off and you're losing tens of thousands of dollars from like subs and donations and all this stuff. And so this one guy, Tyler, who's a very like popular streamer, I think he was number 12, the 12th highest paid according to that Twitch leak. Yes, I know. Oh, nice. You got the new emotes in there. Accessibility. I love it. This poor guy, he just lives you know, he's a millionaire basically, and he lives in the same house he's lived in the whole time he's been streaming, in like rural Missouri, and he only leaves the house to like work out, and it just seems like a very sad existence. Um, and just the pressure to maintain that. And he's, you know, he's a young guy. He's like 26. Um, I'm 46. I don't have time for that bullshit. So I'm not here to like, you know, I'm not here for the money. Okay. The howdy emote is too short to read. Yeah, it's a little. I think the colors aren't doing it any favors. Uh, but it's a cool font. I like it. But yeah, it's a little tricky. Um, yeah, just it's funny because you know, I certainly, this is I've gone off on a huge tangent here. But there's certainly gaming streamers that I watch, and they just seem miserable because they're all playing the same game, which they hate because they're playing it for 10 hours a day. And they're dealing with like stream snipers, right? Which are people who will play the game while having their stream up, so they know where that streamer is in the game, and then they go kind of mess with them, right? They troll them in the game, uh, which I would find. I already have enough trouble in like Warzone without somebody like knowing where I am on the map and coming to mess with me. But they deal with this all the time, and and they just get sick of playing the same game, but they can't play what they want to play because no one's watching that game on Twitch, right? Like, uh, they'll start like for example, you know, these are Warzone streamers that I watch. They'll go and play Halo for a day, and their viewership will like drop precipitously, right? Because the people who watch Warzone don't give a shit about Halo, and so they're like, oh, Halo. There was one guy who went from Warzone. He just got so sick of Warzone, he went to play Apex Legends, which is another battle royale game, and he lost like half of his viewers. And he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm a millionaire. I don't give a shit." Which props to him. He already got the money. He's got like a contract with Twitch, so the donations and subs that he loses out on, like, it's no big deal. But anyway, enough about that. This is all to say that I don't aspire to be a highly watched Twitch streamer. I'm just kind of here to hang out, shoot the shit, show you my process, answer questions as I can. Um, uh, and this has also helped keep me like on track of like you know, I don't know, better not become a tailwind sellout. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I don't know. I feel like if you're good at CSS, like, you don't need tailwind, right? Uh, I mean, most of the people who I know who are like, you know, like Steph or Sarah Swidon, people who write CSS, you know, almost, I wouldn't say almost exclusively, but like that's a large part of their role. It, they don't need Tailwind, right? They have their own methodology that they've come up with over the years. They're not using Bootstrap, probably. Um, I mean, even if I went into a project where they were using Tailwind, I would probably just say, okay, we're going to just write our own CSS and and hope that they would be okay with that. Ban a word. Oh, nice. That should just be a default. I can't believe I even said it. Ben Holmes made me say it, and I feel bad about that. Um, but thank you for spending your precious idle bucks on banning that word. I think he typed that message manually. No, I think that's a thing, isn't it? Even if it's not, I'm not saying it. You're not going to trick me. Oh, you did. That's hilarious. Uh, I'm pretty sure that is an actual thing, isn't it? Did I make that a thing? I mean, how would I know the difference? Yeah, IRL word ban is a thing. Man, I should just start doing that in Alex's stream. I could save myself 2,000 horse bucks every time. That would be great. Ugh. Um, yeah. So yeah, buried in horse bucks. Yeah, well, let's see. Let's look at the list here. Highlight my message. That's always a winner. You can change your thing to papyrus in the feed here. That's probably the one that I'm most proud of. I'm even more proud of that than this summon Geno command, which is exclamation point Geno. Is highlighting a message makes it in papyrus. What else? Some people have done hydrate, which is usually just me drinking more soda, which probably isn't a great. It's not really helping this whole situation here. Hero requests. See, these are some of the, we're getting into the defaults. I don't do a ton of. This was more for the extra life stream. But it was like you could tell me which character to use or create the name aesthetic. I love it. Nice. I don't know if you all have seen it, but I need you to check out one of the best SNL sketches of all time. Just do SNL Papyrus, and this is like this is just an amazing. I'm not gonna play it on the stream, lest I be DMCA'd. But this is a great sketch about the font Papyrus that I think you'll all enjoy. SNL Papyrus, starring Ryan Gosling, tremendous actor. Ben says he has Alex Riviera coming on next week. He does a lot of stuff in the GeoCities aesthetic. I love it. A redeemable reward to temporarily make my overlays go to GeoCity style. That would be awesome. Pushing UI design forward. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And we could even do that with this project by creating a theme with our tokens, like we did on Alex's stream for Halloween, that would just like change the font to, you know, Comic Sans or something, change the colors to a more, you know, 90s, late 90s aesthetic. Maybe we could get some animated GIFs URL encoded that have like you know, a construction guide digging a hole or something. I don't know. But we have to actually finish this thing first. Kudos to Ryan if he's still in the chat. He did this this Advent and banged out all the JavaScript and everything, and probably less time than it took me just to build this. So, and it looked good. It looked like the picture. And then he also added like he put this in a scrollable container, the menu items, which I thought was a nice touch that was not called out specifically in this comp. But yeah, he did a great job. So yeah, so let's make this other guy here. I'm gonna let's see here, narrow this a bit, bring this guy out. Not gonna have a ton of room here. Let's see. So basically this is just another I'm gonna close this section so I can actually see what I'm doing. And we'll just make another div here called AOC card. And does this need I'm gonna leave off the flow thing for now. But we'll give this a maybe we don't want this to be an H1 since there's two of them, right? We don't want two H1s, right? But the cool thing is we can change that semantically without having to use another class. We can have an H2 that has this heading 1 style to it, which is why I reset the I set the font to inherit on everything, so that we have to like be very intentional about the classes that we use with our stuff, and we're not just getting like default browser styles. So this is going to be AOC heading 1, and we'll put the AOC stack 40 on there, and this is work cart. And then we'll probably have another section here where we do this other business. So let's think about like how we want to mark this up. I'm gonna have to make some some more components here for like the buttons, the little icon buttons. I need a smaller. I need this. It's kind of subtle, but there's actually a 2 here with the number of items in here in the cart. So there's that. So basically, like, this is maybe another style of I know, right? It's very subtle. I would probably call that out in a design review and be like, are we sure people can see that? Do they need the image? I mean, do you really need to see this amount of French fries? Uh, that doesn't really help, right? Like, I think if we just took this and hit it, that actually is better than I don't need to see the image of some French fries when I'm checking out. I don't know any other food app that does that. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but I think usability wise, it's not great. Particularly where money's involved, right? Like, if I have 2 items in my cart and I'm just blindly like checking out, which reminds me, I ordered these headphones online, and I'm checking out, and then kind of in the checkout process, they're like, "Hey, why don't you just add another pair to your cart for a discount?" And I was just kind of like quickly going through this, and I accidentally added a second pair. So I emailed them immediately and was like, "Hey, I accidentally added a second pair during your checkout process, which is kind of a dark pattern, by the way. Could you please refund me?" And they're like, "Oh, we have no way of doing that in our system. You'll have to wait until it arrives and then ship it back to us." And I'm like, that is the most idiotic thing I've ever heard of. So now I have to wait till it comes. They've already charged me for it. I have to ship it back and then wait, however long it takes for them to get it and then refund my money, which is just infuriating. It's not even that much money. It just really pisses me off. Ben says, also, Ben Holmes says, the image helps, but the quantity is redundant with the 2 and the, that's true. Yeah, the 2 is kind of redundant since it already lives here in this input thing. Of course, Aaron has darkpatterns.org at the ready. Let me pull this up in the browser here. Yeah. Dark patterns. Boy, at Groupon, I had to fight against a lot of shady product folks that were like, "Hey, let's do this." And I'm like, no, let's not. And then Ben Myers says, I would almost include the image for visual decoration, but then set the opacity to like 0.5 to make it clear it's not supposed to be a meaningful bit of information. That's an interesting thing. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see. Layer. Can I do that on here? I'm not a Figma whiz here by any means. Oh yeah. That's a little better. It stands out. I don't know what Ben Holmes thinks about that. But yeah. It's a great compromise between like just getting rid of it. But yeah, to Ben Holmes' point, it's kind of redundant having that there. You could probably just have the image. But I don't know, the engineer in me would just omit it entirely. Kevin Powell in the house. Advent of CSS, nice. Signed up but haven't tried any of them. It's Kevin, it's like a full-time job. Like these are seriously more involved than like the stuff I actually have to prototype for my actual job. So I feel like these advents, I appreciate all the effort that went into this. The designs are great. It's just so involved that like I feel like these challenges, you have to have it like where you can get it done in less than an hour. Because I'm not going to do 24 things that take me 3 hours to build, right? And I feel like I'm pretty good at this. And if it takes me 3 hours, I mean, granted, I've been building out like a whole design system around it, which has added to the time. I probably could have banged this out in half the time, but I'm trying to illustrate my process here, and this is just kind of how I make websites now. Yeah, it's a lot. Like these should be exercises that you could like pull off in an interview, right? Like if I'm interviewing a candidate and I want to test their CSS chops, like here, whip this up, right? Like maybe it's just this page, right? And kind of you want to see how they mark it up, what their thoughts are around, hey, are they using Flexbox for this? Are they using Grid? What are they doing? And get a sense of kind of where they're at there. And if they say, oh, I just use, and I'm not going to say the word because it's been banned by Ben without spending any idle bucks, that's where the interview ends. Because like if you don't understand the underlying CSS and you just know some framework, and that's how you, if that's how you make websites, great. But if you're being hired for a role that requires CSS knowledge and you're like, oh, I just use Bootstrap for everything, then there's not really much to talk about if you don't even understand how Bootstrap actually does stuff, right? I've had lots of interviews like that, particularly at Groupon, to the point where they just stopped asking me to interview people because I would just be like, in the interview recap, everybody would throw thumbs, and I'd just be like, nope, and like they were perfectly able to whiteboard some sorting algorithm, but didn't know the difference between an inline element and a block element. And I'm like, yeah, no. If that's what you're hiring for, great. But if you expect them to do any CSS, they're not up to the task. So, anywho, Aaron says he's often called to speak in court cases. Can you imagine if you were so good at like your job that you were called as like a witness in court? Like that'd be crazy. I don't think that pays anything, but still pretty cool. I kind of don't want to be that good at my job either. And we talked earlier about being like a big time Twitch streamer, and I don't aspire to that. I definitely don't aspire to like being subpoenaed to talk about some company like Domino's CSS in an accessibility trial. Like, no thanks. Might use these to test slinkety canaries. Oh, that's a good idea. Kevin says, that makes sense. Opened a few to look at them and thought the same thing. It must have taken them forever. They must have been working on this for months, and I applaud them because this is beautiful. But like, I think the practicality of it, maybe just build day one and show it to 5 people and see like, hey, is this something you'd want to do for 24 days straight? A little user testing goes a long way. Use synonyms for the word we shall not name. We talked about this last week. I wrote an article, which I know Kevin has seen, called "It's Your Website," which like, hey, if you want to use that framework, go for it. If it works for you and your workflow, great. It's not something that I would lean on. If I went to a company where they're already using it, I would probably, I'm like, why? A, I'd be like, why would you hire me then? But B, like, let's just build our own framework that solves what we needed to do. Because all these frameworks are like built to solve everybody's problems. Maybe they're built to solve one company's specific problems like Bootstrap, but then they open source it, and now you're trying to solve everybody's problems, and everyone's chipping in. Well, why don't you have this carousel? And you're like, well, maybe my product doesn't need a carousel, right? And then you just keep adding all this shit to it, and it gets out of control. But anyhow, it does pay. Aaron says that being a witness in court pays, which is great. Probably pays at least better than being a jury member, which is like $15 a day and a cheese sandwich generally, in my experience. Ben says, plus I'd have to assume it'd give your friend a sense of purpose. Railing against shady business practices. Hell yeah. I agree. He did it for some years before he became an expert witness. So they have expert witnesses, and then they just have witnesses that are not quite experts. And then you have to build up to being an expert witness. So he's an expert at being a witness. He's not necessarily an expert at... There's a difference. You're an expert who's also a witness. You're an expert in the thing you're an expert in and also a witness, but in this case, he's probably both an expert in the thing and an expert at being a witness. I'm just being an idiot right now. Learning from y'all to start building my go-to CSS system. Thomas got me into the IT CSS approach. Been working pretty well so far. Again, if that works for you, great. It seems a little heavy-handed for like the type of stuff that I'm doing. you know, like I showed here, like we've got this whole thing styled in like 100 lines of CSS. And we can update it all using tokens and not touching any CSS. But if literally no one does it the way I do it, great. I'm fine with that because it means I have job security because all of Pro V CSS is written like this. And if I leave, good luck. Um, let's see. Oh, another site. Shout out to Kyle, who did this site called not Frontend Horse, but Frontend Practice, which is another great resource for let's say you want to work on your front end chops. It gives you all the resources you need to kind of replicate a site like Ableton. And I think I did this on stream several months back. I think it might have even been the first stream I worked on it, but it gives you the color palette and lots of different ones. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to work on your chops here, trying to design all these different things and making it look like the picture. And I think he's planning on updating this to add more sites and that sort of thing. But yeah, good stuff. Did it? Let's see. Father used to do the same for housing law. I've never been a witness in court. I've been an alternate in a jury once, and I had to sit through the whole trial. And then before I even got to see what the verdict was, I was dismissed because I was an alternate and they didn't need me. So I had to sit through all the deliberations, all of the. No, I didn't sit through the deliberations, but I sat through the whole trial. And it was kind of interesting. It was I don't think it was a murder trial exactly, but there was a shooting, and the trial was like 3 days long, and yeah, I got a terrible lunch 3 days in a row from the county, Cook County Jail, catered the lunch. So you can imagine how that went, and I was paid $15 a day. And yeah, it was the one thing I was like, at least let me find out the verdict, and they dismissed me before they even deliberated. So go figure. The way I write CSS reminds me of yes. So there is some. I would say that particular framework is a utility first framework, right? Where it's all utilities, right? So if I wanted to make a button, I would have to use the utility for background color and the utility for border radius and a utility for font color and a utility for line height, right? Whereas this is like I have all of the styles of a button are in a, I've got a card component and I've got a heading component, right? I don't have to make a heading that has these things. And so what this allows me to do is be very intentional about those combinations, and that's all controlled by the designers. And then I can use these utility classes to arrange all of these components on the page. So I can control the spacing between them, the padding within them, the colors, background colors, things like that using utilities. But all of the actual components, my markup is not a shit ton of classes, right? It's a card with this flow element on it, this flow utility. This is a heading with a stack thing, which is overriding the 32. So everything in here has 30. Actually, I don't even need this 32 anymore because this already has a stack on it. And I only need the flow on this section that has the cards in it. So my markup now is cleaner, but I also have utility classes that I can apply to kind of turn these into a product. Because a lot of times what I've found, particularly working at Groupon, where like a big part of the experience are these product cards, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about here, Groupon.com. So Groupon is almost entirely product cards. I like how they haven't updated this modal in literally like 8 years. Wow, this is a lot different from when I was at Groupon. But so you have these product cards, right? And the problem is that we have all these different, they have all these different verticals, right? So this is a goods card. This is also a goods card. It looks like all of these are goods. But then you have, you know, this was called beauty and wellness was a category, and that's got its own team. You've got things to do. You've got like restaurants and that kind of stuff, tickets and events, right? And so you have all these different teams that are making different versions of these cards, and you can kind of let's see if we can just do like a these are almost like verticals within the company, and you know they're kind of, I guess, how a user might search, but like food and drink, for example. So you know we've got like sponsored stuff, and maybe that's a different team, and you've got trending, and like as a design systems person, like it's impossible to keep up with all of these different teams iterating on the idea of a product card and maintaining that in the design system. So what we want to do is make this as atomic as possible so that they have all of the things in the system that they need to compose a card like this. So all of the spacing values, all of the types, sizes, all of the icons, things like that. They can compose any permutation of these cards, and it's supported by the system, but the system does not have to stay on top of like product decisions, right? And so by keeping this very atomic, using a combination of the component styles, which are like very atomic level components, and the utility classes, like we can make it possible for them to make all these different things without having to constantly be adding new variants of things, right? And if you think about in the sense of atomic design, as we all are familiar with, right? I'm going to find this one image in particular right here, right? So in a design system, we're largely working with atoms and to a lesser extent molecules. When you start talking about organisms, that's when you're talking about product decisions, and that's what you want to steer clear with in design systems because you know, from my point of view, like as a design system person, the product is almost irrelevant. The product decisions are almost irrelevant. I don't need to be in product meetings. Just tell me what the product looks like, and I will help facilitate getting that built, right? In a way that is scalable and repeatable and consistent. So some systems include templates and pages, and you can like actually I do have templates, right? Like we don't want developers to be like reinventing the wheel anytime they get a design that's in a template. Maybe the designers kind of threw it together and it's not up to date. But also like, you know, something like the header that gets iterated on a lot. You don't want the system to have to deal with that, but you want to create a template that lets them put stuff in there. That might be a part of it. But really, like the closer you can stay to atoms, the easier it is to iterate for designers and engineers to iterate on the product without having the system be updated every time, right? And that's kind of how my methodology developed. Like how can I draw a very firm line in the sand between where the design system ends and the product begins? I don't want to be maintaining product decisions in the design system, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So yes, there are utility classes, but it's not all utility classes. And to be honest, I don't know enough about that particular framework to know how people get around that. I'm sure you could use Sass to like include different utility classes to make bigger stuff, but that just seems like over engineering a thing you can just do in CSS, right? And really the only reason I'm using Sass here, you could certainly do this with, you could just as easily do this method with CSS custom properties, but I don't necessarily need all of this to be in my CSS, right? This can be abstracted and just compiled to those values. The only time I would use CSS properties is if I needed those to update or I wanted there to be defaults that the developers could override using inline, declaring those custom properties inline to override certain values. Ben says, curious to hear your opinion on this. How do I feel design system elements like headings, buttons, etc., not allowing you to override styles via classes? aka React views svelte components that don't expose class as a property. I don't know enough about those frameworks to really know why they do that. Like, I've had arguments with developers about like they want everything to be encapsulated, and they have problems with like fighting with the system because like I don't know what. I feel like all that's, hey, Prince is here. What's good, man? I feel like I try to make this stuff as framework agnostic as possible, because like if we're too invested in, let's say, svelte, right? 2 years from now, there's going to be, I have a sneaking suspicion that like, well, Slinkity's not really like in that same vein. Slinkity, I think, would facilitate transitioning to from one framework to another, but like, we're already seeing with React like this kind of like pushback against React, and there's these new frameworks coming up that kind of address maybe shortcomings of React to invest in Svelte. But what I'm saying is like, as long as I've been making websites, which is a long time, there's been one constant, a couple constants, HTML and CSS, right? Nothing has come along and replaced those things. There have been things that have come along like Sass that have helped author those things, but nothing. There's not like a new CSS that's like the new thing we're using instead of CSS, right? But on the backend side, as far as like making the site work, we've had PHP and Rails and React, and now we've got Vue and Svelte and all these different frameworks, which is ironic because, like, I don't know, 70% of the web is just a bunch of WordPress sites that's in PHP, and everybody's like, React is the thing, But like, I don't want the system to be tied to a specific framework because those things change so frequently. And so I don't understand why a framework couldn't just allow you to apply classes. Because if you have let's say we have a, we've got this heading component, it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a particular, like I can apply this heading style to a paragraph. I can apply it to a heading, right? Semantically, it's not tied to the class. But let me go back to your question. Elements like heading buttons not allowing you to override styles. As long as it supports like letting the designers design with it, like we should never just be arbitrarily picking, font colors, right? Those should be kind of vetted for color contrast and things like that, which is kind of where these contextual tokens come in, right? Like I have a limited set of colors in my palette that are used as backgrounds, and a limited set that are used as text. And I want to ensure that those combinations are accessible. And we're not just like, hey, there's a yellow in my palette, and I'm going to use that for text on this. Like, I think that's where, like, which is why, like, I don't even tend to expose tokens to developers. It's just, this is how we build the CSS framework, and then you just have to think about the classes. You're not even thinking about the tokens, because then the developers are just like using tokens willy-nilly, and they don't know which ones they should use. Or you have, like this Figma here. There's this layers panel, right? Which none of this is descriptive, right? So I don't know what frame 1 is, right? Okay, so frame 1 is this. And then we have frame 3 inside of that. But like for me, like a design system would have, if your Figma had a UI kit that was in sync with your design system, these would be component names, right? And so the developer's not looking at inspect, right? They're not looking at this value. They're just looking at, like, let's say, let's go back to this part as an example, and I go into this thing, right? And so we have this thing, it just says row. this would actually be, and to match our system, this would be AOC menu item, right? And then that way the developer knows this is an AOC menu item, which is a component in my system. And by using that, I'm getting all of the styles that are, that are tied to that. And then I just need to grab this image, and everything else is like specced out in here as far as the components that are being used. I don't know if that answers your question at all. Prince, I missed you. I'm sorry I missed your stream. It's like your stream always happens right when like my son is coming home from daycare, and it's just like not a great time. But I do try to catch the bod sometimes, but I miss our interactions. Kevin says React stocks do say something along the lines of suggesting to just link to a single external CSS file. Holy crap, Steph with the huge gifting of subs. Thank you so much, Steph. Thomas is now a subscriber, and Brent is a subscriber, and Life is a subscriber. It's fun. Are all of those people here watching the stream? Or are you all just lurking? I think everyone in here is a subscriber pretty much. Or maybe not, because I have the names color coded in the thing, so it doesn't look. Wait, but somebody gifted Ben a subscription, right? I don't know. I'm tripping. Anyway, thank you, Steph. I appreciate that. We're inching slowly closer to yet another emote unlock here. And Ben Holmes says the pattern I've seen is letting you override the root element for semantics. Say choose H1 through H6. Or a P for a heading, but you can't go to town on the classes that the component's applying. I feel like you should be able to, right? Like if I want to take a component and apply some utility classes to it so that I can, I want this button to be, a certain way. Oh shit, we almost got a hype train going. This is crazy. You want certain elements to be arranged in a certain way without having to compose that in your styles by using utility classes. Like the example I always use is like a button group, right? You have a button that says cancel and another button that says like add to cart or something. And a lot of times people will say, oh, this is a button group, and they'll make a button group style, and that style will just basically be display flex, right? But you could just add a utility called AOC flex row, and that does the same thing, and you don't have to declare display flex on a bunch of different components. You just have this utility class in for a container in instances where you want to align things next to each other. And that way you're not repeating yourself in your CSS. That's how we're able to do this whole thing in 100 lines, because we're not saying display flex a bunch of times, right? And if we are, it's because like it's easier than in menu item using like our flex utility class, right? But yeah, let's see. Ooh, catching up. Holy crap. And then Ben gifted a sub to Ben Holmes. Wow. A little Ben on Ben action. And also to Ryan. So wow, holy cow. Pretty much everybody is subscribed now. Everyone in the chat has a subscription, which is wild. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support. And very awesome. Very awesome. Ben is at 6 gifted subs all time, and looks like Steph is also at 6. So it's a race for who can be the most generous idolite. I don't one of my friends jokingly referred to the community as the Peruvian pussy willows. I'm not sure that's going to catch on. Now Ben Holmes is gifting subs. I don't even think people are here. Wow, is Jacob here? Oh, we got a hype train. Look at little idle, the idle emotes. Limited time to earn exclusive emotes. I don't even know what that means, but let's get a Gino and let's get some Genos in the chat. That's so awesome. Thank you, Ben Holmes. I appreciate it. So Matt is now a subscriber, and Jacob and Prince. So welcome to the fam. And now you all have access to the Gino and Emily emotes. Very cool. Wow, what a day. What a day we're having. So it's 2:15. I got a hard out at 3. My boss moved our one-on-one from pre-stream to post-stream. So I'm going to have to jump on that. I'm going to put my sandwich in the fridge because I haven't taken it out yet. Alrighty. Yes, Gino's and Emily's in the chat. Love to see it. I gotta make a new. I gotta make like this, but for Emily. And I wanted to add. I got a bunch of to-dos in my my Twitch scenes repo in the issues. I want to make like a waggy tail for Gino. Some other stuff in there. I was gonna do like a little. I was gonna try and steal a little snow overlay from CodePen. That'd be fun. Duke is not yet. I don't think that works. I don't know who Duke is. Does not ring a bell. A snowverlay. That's right. But since no, I'll stream next week. The following Fridays. I don't know that I'll stream. But who knows what we'll do next week. But so I had the lights last week. This week I got the Christmas hat. I got to add yet another layer of festivity to the thing. Commands. Oh, look at that. There is a Nightbot thing. Although I have some commands are a Nightbot and some of them are not. So yeah, there's really not a lot of Nightbot commands. It's mostly like homemade using the Comfy JS. So there's Gino, there's Dude. There's another one. Oh, the overlay's gone. What's up with that? Oh, I know why, because my monitor is too high. I want that here, and there it is. The Dude abides. And then you got Chicago.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
There we go. Alex, our friend Alex, is in Chicago, and I will be lunching with him tomorrow. It should be a good time. I have not had lunch with anyone besides my wife in the last 2 years, so I'm looking forward to having someone to talk to while I stuff food in my face. Oh, there will be pics for sure. I'm not gonna spoil where we're gonna eat, but we'll definitely talk about it in the Discord. It is literally the restaurant that Alex did a thing for one of the months. It was the theme of one of the front end horse things, which I feel like he kind of dropped the whole theme thing. That seemed like a lot of work. And now people just come on and do what they want to do. But back when he was doing themes, there was a certain themed restaurant which actually exists in Chicago. So I'm going to take him to that, and it's going to be a good time. So none of that typical like touristy bullshit like Gino's East or stuff like that. No, I'm taking him to like a legit Chicago place. We have all types of food under the sun here. It's the only way we get through the winters, and so I think he'll enjoy it. So yeah, should probably work on this, huh? I mean, we don't have to. I'm enjoying just hanging out with you all and shooting the shit. But let's see. So I've got my card down here. Oh, so here's an opportunity to make a new utility, right? So let's see how far apart these cards are. 50. So that's no good, because we want our spacing to kind of fall in these spacing values that we've established, and the highest one we have is 40. So what we can do is we'll go down here. We have our stack. We've got our flow. We can do like I just talked about before, AOC flex row, and this is just display flex align items center. Holy cow! Hype train level 2. Let's share it. Choo choo, all choo choo, y'all. My son is completely enamored with trains. He loves trains. He would be really excited that we have a hype train going. 8 subs, y'all. Holy cow. You guys are too generous. I appreciate it. I still have yet to get my first Twitch check. But when I do, I will likely just funnel it back into y'all's Twitch streams. So I thank you very much. So AOC flex row, display flex, align item center. That's it. Oh, also, what we want is AOC flex row children, direct children, not the last child. These will have a margin right of we'll just, well, in this case 40, right? But like I usually do like by default 16. But then I have like other classes. Actually, let's see. Uh, what I do actually is this, right? I'll do a selector like this where it's class star equals flex row. Right? So this will do all of them, and then the default. Actually, I don't even need this because it's nested. And then what I can do is say that AOC flex row 40, not last child. This is margin right spacing 40. So now if you just do AOC flex row, you have this thing that all of the children are aligned horizontally, they're centered, and they have 16 pixels of, I guess you could use gap here, right? You could just do gap 16. Even though, like at Provi, even though we don't support IE11, I feel like, doing it this way instead of using gap. I mean, I don't want it to look completely jacked on for somebody who's using IE11 because it's not an insignificant number, particularly when you're dealing with like e-commerce. So it's easy to say when you're doing a project, like a personal project, oh yeah, I'm just going to throw gap on there and call it a day, right? But when you're doing e-commerce and somebody goes to the thing in IE11 and it looks like shit because you use gap instead of margin right, right? Like it's a different story. So even though in like evergreen browsers, you would probably use gap on the flex, I use this method because it just, it works, right? The fix is fairly simple, might as well, right? Yeah. So yeah, for like a side project, I definitely use gap. In this case, this is kind of how I approach it. And so every child except the last is getting this margin, right? So so yeah, we've got these new this new flex utility, and so now what we can do is we can put I guess this will be our main, right? And we'll say class AOC flex. We want the flex row 40, and close that down here. And oh, I need to put like a minimum width on this card, I think. Ooh, that looks interesting. I don't know what's going on there. Oh, this is align center also. So I would want another class, right? That's like AOC flex align start. So kind of like just who uses IE11? You know, if you're most people like developers, certainly nobody's using IE11, right? But if you're in a corporate environment or in the case of Provi that deals with a lot of like restaurants and stuff, I don't know if you've ever seen a restaurant website where like the menu's like a PDF or something, but they're not exactly worried about updating their browser, right? They're like ordering booze online and they just want the shit to work. And, they might never update their computer, right? They're just running Windows 7 or some shit, and that's all. It's like just a fact of life, right? It's not a lot of people, but it's not an insignificant amount of people. And if people can't check out because your site looks janky, they're not going to use your product, right? And so yeah, that's a great question. Surprisingly enough, there are still people for whatever reason use IE, and it's not always an easy fix for them. maybe they're old and like they just don't know how to update, or their IT department has them locked into IE11 because some third party thing only works in IE11. And these are like actual things that happen. As dumb as that seems to us, it's like a thing that happens. But yeah, it's dumb. Someday we'll get to a point where we don't have to worry about old browsers and stuff just auto updates, and we can take full advantage of all the cool stuff that CSS has to offer. But unfortunately, the actual reality of it, even today, is like sometimes, even though we're not technically supporting IE, like we don't want to just break it for people who are using IE because we want their money, right? We want their money. Need to screenshot this. Didn't think it was simple at first. Yeah, it's not terribly difficult. People using IE11 probably don't want to be using IE11. That is true. Browser diversity is important. Absolutely, Thomas. IE11D. Yes, I like it. That would be a great Dusty Domains project as IE11D. I like it. Thomas says, I hate this. Me too. Yeah, Ryan supports IE11. You know, a lot of companies like it. There's like a certain, they look at their traffic, and if there's a certain number of people that are using their specific product that are on IE11, they'll use it even though like on caniuse.com, the worldwide browser stats are maybe a certain value, and that's under the threshold. Maybe your customers are more inclined to use that for whatever reason, right? Because you're dealing with mom and pop liquor stores or whatever, right? Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's frustrating as a developer to have to support IE11, but it's important that we don't, make the product worse for people who can't access it on the highest end stuff, right? A lot of times we're, as developers, we're maybe not all of us now that we're all remote, but like a lot of us are in large cities. We've got fast internet. We've got high density displays. But maybe our customers don't have all that stuff. And so we tend to take that stuff for granted. When I was at Groupon, for example, a lot of our design and engineering was taking place in the Bay Area and in Chicago. And so we're pulling deals from our API in those cities to demonstrate the product. But if you're in, say, Bozeman, Montana, you don't have 20 spas in your neighborhood, right? Like you might in Chicago. You maybe if you're lucky, there's one spa in all of Bozeman, Montana. Not to knock Bozeman, Montana, but it's just a different experience there, right? So we have to kind of go outside of our bubble and try and experience things how our users are experiencing them, so that we can better understand like their problems, and we're not just like solving for like the best case scenario, right? Which means like when we're designing stuff, maybe we're pulling this French fries with ketchup. We're actually, instead of just typing this in, we're pulling it from our API, and we can populate this with anything in our system. So maybe there's maybe French fries with ketchup and also cheese, right? Maybe that's a product name, and that breaks our whole layout because when we incorporate that into the thing, we didn't account for this wrapping, and maybe we made this card a specific size so that they're all equal. And so like dealing with actual data, dealing with actual like how users experience your site, helps you better avoid stuff like that. Ben Holmes says, I update my grandpa's browser when I visit once a year. That's so cute. I love it. Yeah, my mom fortunately is pretty tech savvy. And so I don't get a lot of IT requests from her. My dad is another story, but he just kind of lives with it. All of that said, I'm also of the opinion that like if you do use IE11, you're used to like 90% of the internet being broken for you. So maybe that's a horrible stance to take, but that doesn't like get us off the hook for having to support folks like that. Kevin says a lot of the big companies have dropped support, though. Curious if that's going to force some upgrades. Maybe, but like you still have, folks. You have folks like Ben's grandpa, who maybe doesn't have a grandson that updates their browser for them, right? And they're just happy to like be able to be online, right? And they don't know about software updates and antivirus and all this stuff, right? They're just like, how do I get online? They just want to send an email. They're not they're not on CodePen, right? um Thomas says, I personally don't mind this stuff. And Ryan says, I was playing around with dates, time zones, and JavaScript the other day and realized I couldn't use toLocale date string because of IE11. Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Yeah, not only, I mean, I don't write a lot of JS, but that would be terribly frustrating. I know there's just as many like JS inconsistencies as there are CSS ones. And that was really why a lot of people were using jQuery, right? Because that kind of solved a lot of those problems. And Thomas says, because the alternative web platform monoculture is worse as I see it. Good point. Also acts funky in different locales. For instance, it's April 11th in the US and April 11th in Canada. Huh, that's interesting. JavaScript is so weird. This is why I focus mostly on CSS. I got it to format the date the way we needed it and was proud of myself, but then realized IE11 just doesn't care about time zones. That sucks. Ben Meyer says, goodness, I need to spend less time with web folks. I heard SPA and thought you were talking about single-page apps. Yes, that is true. Used to have to do so much IT stuff. Then I bought my mother an iPad. There you go. My whole response, like when the family asked me to look at their computer, I'm like, I just make websites. I probably could solve their problems, but like, I just don't want to. I don't want to set a precedent for like me being the computer guy. So I'm just like, I just make websites. I don't know nothing about nothing. And that usually keeps them, they'll ask me for advice on stuff, but they won't ask me to like actually do stuff. I think the furthest I'll go is to turn off motion smoothing on people's TVs without their knowledge, just to make things better in the world. Wow, she set up a Wi-Fi printer. That's good. Things are a lot easier for people who are not computer savvy than they were even like 5 or 10 years ago. So Microsoft will be removing IE from devices in favor of Edge. That's like devices going forward though, right? I mean, can they take like an old, let's say I'm running Windows 7 or something. They can't just like go in and be like, hey, sorry, you're on Edge now. I don't know. Maybe they can. I don't know. Yep, Edge and Windows 11 does have an IE mode. That is correct. I don't think a lot of people know about that is the thing. Wow, that's getting dropped as well. Interesting. I mean, I'm fine with that just going away forever. Kevin says, I think even Facebook has stopped. I don't think it means it doesn't work, but they aren't worrying about it. That's what Microsoft is doing with their online office tools. Twitter, Netflix, LinkedIn, and some others have. Yeah. I mean, if my boss said, hey, we're not supporting IE11, don't even bother, I would probably just like, oh, okay. And I would go ahead and use Gap in this instance. But, before Gap, I think I started at Provi maybe before Gap was fully available. Maybe it wasn't, I don't know. And I just wasn't aware because I'm not like, I'm not as on top of things as like Kevin and stuff are. It's just too much to keep up with. But we did have people say, oh, we have this one customer who, it's always like the biggest customer. We have this customer who's using IE11 and this is broken on their thing. And I have to like, accommodate those folks because it's a lot of money, right? And the company cares more about the money than they do about CSS, which for me is sad, but that's how we pay the bills, right? That's how we keep the lights on. So you got to do what you got to do. Ben Holmes says, definitely on opposite ends of the relaxation spectrum. The spas, yes. Also, if you have Edge on your computer and go to a site like YouTube on IE, it'll actually open it in Edge now. That's cool. I did not know that. I primarily only use my PC now for gaming, and even that, it's like very rarely going in the browser. I will use it like occasionally to test something in Edge. But now I have Edge. I actually have Edge on Windows, right? Here's Microsoft Edge, and miraculously, it exists on Macs now. So I don't know if that's really the same as testing it on an actual PC, but I don't know who's using Edge on a Mac. Uh, I don't know. I would love to see the Venn diagram of people who are on a Mac that are also using Edge as their primary browser. And maybe those people exist. I don't know. Oh boy, I'm getting work slacks now. I got 25 minutes where I got to duck out here. So here's Edge. It does exist. Uh, it's funny because their news stuff seems to skew a certain way politically, if you know what I mean. Um, just anecdotally, when I open this, it's always like some like Fox News thing is in here or something. I'm like, oh boy. Anyway, Edge exists in Mac OS. How many people are using IE who have Edge on their computer? Yeah, I don't know. Ben says, it me. Netlify's team got addicted too. Cassidy Williams, Netlify, I think. Oh yeah, you did say Netlify. I always see Netlify and read Netflix for some reason. Oh, are you saying you use Edge in on a Mac, and Cassidy and Jason use it? Hide the newsfeed. Yes, that's what I like about. I use Firefox primarily, and Firefox like has articles from Pocket, but it's mostly based on like stuff that I've read, so it's not completely insane. But yeah, I need to just put in my application at Netlify because they just have a to use horse terminology, they have quite the stable of thoroughbreds over there, and a bunch of people that I would love to work with, and they just keep adding to it. They recently added Lynn Fisher works there now, and who else? Somebody just started there this week, but just a all-star lineup of folks, and I would love to be a part of that. From what I understand, they use the T word over there, and I would want to change that. They do have a design system. I think Prince told me that there is a design system that exists at Netlify, and I'd be curious what that looks like. Yeah, Selma. That's exactly who I was thinking of, and I'm just like, my head is exploding with all these people that like I would love to learn from, because I feel like when I in my role at Groupon and Provi, I've always been the one like dispensing knowledge, and I've never felt like, you know, I work with a lot of smart people, but there's never been a reason to like collaborate with them in a way where I'm the one learning. Whereas I feel like at Netlify, I would just be like by osmosis, just like not sitting physically next to these people, but by working with these people, I would just be like, you know, bombarded with knowledge constantly, and I would just like be soaking it up. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But I think we should all just go work at Netlify. It's taking over the world, y'all. So let's just do it. Main benefits: hibernates old tabs for better memory usage. Cool. Built-in coupon finder. That's cool. No Google account integrations. Fair enough. Although all of my stuff at work is Google based, so Google Calendar, Google Meet, Gmail. Privacy blocker that's pretty good out of the box. Still use Ghostery. Big reason you took the job at Microsoft. Yes, that's awesome. And also like having Microsoft on your resume, holy cow, like I feel like there's certain companies where once you work there, like you can pretty much write your ticket, say, well, I worked at Microsoft, right? Or I worked at Amazon or Facebook or Netflix. And you know, you're like, oh, well, this person can work at a scale that's like, you know, well above what we even aspire to. So yeah. Sorry, I'm just catching up on everyone's messaging me all of a sudden. I should just go on full blackout while I'm on stream. So I wanted to make this page. Maybe this will have to wait till next week. I spent a lot of time talking about oh, flex align start. We can do this real quick. This is just like what is it? Is it align? Yeah, align items flex start. Right. So then we can add where was that? This is this guy. And we have, oh, right, this is the outer one. So we'll do AOC flex align start. Yeah, there we go. So I don't know why this is as short as it is. That's weird. But I think once we fill it with content, that should fix that problem. I think we want a minimum width, I think, on this card. Um, yeah, so we've got our two cards. I will then next week, when I touch this, I will build out some things for icon buttons, and we've already got our font styles here. Let me get this rid of this, and also cheese. Who wants ketchup and cheese? Also, ketchup is not something that like comes with the thing, right? Like that's a condiment. It's not like no one advertises French fries with ketchup. I'm wondering if the folks who made this are Canadian or something. No offense to Canadians, but because y'all have poutine up there and it's amazing. But like ketchup is just like it's assumed, right? Like you might have French fries and you have cheese fries, but you never see French fries with ketchup. Also, spaghetti with sauce. My wife is Italian and she would find that offensive that it's called spaghetti with sauce. The sauce is a given. What kind of sauce? Is it Alfredo sauce? Is it marinara? Like, what are we talking here, right? Anyway, again, I have to preface all this by saying they did an amazing job with this Advent of CSS. It's so much effort went into it. It's very amazing. It's just more than my brain can handle. It doesn't count when you're a freelancer, sadly. Oh, you mean like when you freelance for Microsoft? I don't know. I don't think that's true. If I were looking at a candidate who had done like agency work or freelance work for Nike and Microsoft and things like that, I would certainly consider them, experienced in working in those environments. I'm sorry if that hasn't been your experience, but if you wanna apply for a job at Provi, I'll certainly uh, give you an endorsement. Does it have ketchup? I couldn't tell. Black 2 sauce. Oh boy. Um, French fries with ice cream. I've heard yeah, like people will like order like a milkshake and dip their fries in it. Sure, why not? If, my wife likes to say, if you like it, I love it, right? Like I'm not judging anybody. If it's your thing, cool, man, right? It's your website, right? That kind of thing. But hats off to you. Dipping those Wendy's fries and Frosties. Yes, exactly. Yeah. You know, I live in Chicago, so it's like when it comes to food, like, anything goes. Whatever gets you through the day. Mozilla, Microsoft, Google, and Apple. Wow, that's impressive. I am not. I don't know if you've seen my entire body, but I am not trying to lose weight. I am cursed with a high metabolism. Uh, I basically look like Christian Bale, machinist. This is kind of my. I was the body double. I don't know if you guys know this, but I was the body double for Christian Bale in this movie. No, it's not that bad. Sorry, that was terrifying. I should have put a content warning there. Good lord. Can you believe he lost a bunch of weight for that movie by eating like he literally would just eat apples, and then he immediately followed that by doing Batman Begins, and he put on like 60 pounds of just beef. I mean, that's dedication for you. But yeah, I'm a step above Christian Bale and the Machinist slightly. Uh, Most Italians would have a bigger issue with what sauce is on there. My wife, uh, especially when you're showing spaghetti with sauce and it's a bunch of French fries, like this spaghetti looks really thick and not appetizing. Um, thought about losing weight. Yeah, I could not not eat carbs if I were like and I think life is lactose intolerant. But if I were either lactose intolerant or like couldn't eat gluten, like I would rather have like stage 4 cancer than not be able to eat carbs and cheese. Like just put a pillow over my face and let's end it. We had a good run. If I can't eat stuff, like that's just death to me. Carbohydrate. That's right. I would rather die than not eat carbs. And Peruvian food in particular is very carb heavy. Like, in America, you get a meat portion and a vegetable portion, right? In Peru, it's like you get a meat and like a starch and another starch and another starch. It's like meat with rice and potatoes and bread, and it's just like uh, vegetables like a garnish, right? They don't have like you don't get a side of broccoli with Peruvian food. It's just like maybe you'll have a little sprinkle of parsley, and that's your vegetation. But yeah, which reminds me, I need to go get some Peruvian food this weekend. I haven't had any in a while. Let me mute my microphone while I sneeze. Of course, now I don't have to sneeze. That's always the way. Um, Food diets. Carry on cheesing. Gluten free and dairy free. Oh man. Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you found a way to manage it, and there's probably like great gluten free and dairy free stuff that I'm just not aware of, but I would find it very difficult. And I applaud you for being able to carry on and be such a positive, fun person as you are, despite all of that. 'Cause I would just be a miserable piece of shit, which I already am. But if I couldn't eat carbs, I would just be the most cynical, grumpy person that no one would want to be around, and it wouldn't be pleasant. And like I said, might as well just put a pillow over my face. I'd rather have a naughty time with two guys named Ben and Jerry and watch Centaur World instead. Hey, if you like it, I love it. Problem with fat is that there are a lot of health problems associated with it. Yes. Hashtag no sneeze. 4-year-old favorite meal is noodles, but she balances that by also loving a wide variety of veggies and fruit. 5-year-old is high metabolism and a big carnivore and chocoholic. Feeding kids is fun. My son, weirdly enough, does not like meat. Like he'll eat the occasional chicken nugget, but like he's just not into it. He likes mac and cheese. He likes peanut butter sandwiches. He likes lots of fruit. Kind of has gotten off the vegetables, but not a big meat eater. Maybe it's something that he'll get into, but for now it's just like mac and cheese and peanut butter sandwiches are like the two go-tos. There's a drag queen that has an Instagram story archive of every time he sneezed. I love that. That's amazing. We have a restaurant slash bar called Hamburger Mary's down the street that has drag shows, and it's pretty incredible, I gotta say. I don't know if all of y'all have ever been to a drag show, but it is a delight, and I highly recommend it. It's a good time, especially while you're eating hamburgers. Make sure you bring cash to tip. You cheat on gluten, but dairy is pretty easy these days, all for acne-related reasons. Maybe that's, I feel like, I don't know how old you are. I assume you're much younger than I am, but maybe that's something that will resolve itself as you get older, and then you can just throw on the cheese. Yeah, we're very close to Wisconsin, so we've got like cheese curds and all of that stuff, and we like the cheese here. Characteristic Peruvian dish. Great question. My favorite dish is called lomo saltado. Saltado. And it's essentially a stir fry. Peruvian food has a lot of different influences. So there's a large Chinese population. There's a not insignificant Japanese population in Peru. We have immigrants from Italy, Africa. Not that Africa is a country, but we have like Afro-Peruvians, right? And so Peruvian cuisine draws inspiration from all of these things. So lomo saltado is essentially like a sirloin with peppers, French fries, onions, tomatoes, served with rice. And it comes in various shapes and sizes. Sometimes people mix in the fries, sometimes it's separate, but it's delicious. And if you ever go to a Peruvian restaurant and you order lomo saltado, this is how I judge all Peruvian restaurants. But we have ceviche. Peru is located on the ocean, so we have what's essentially uncooked fish that is marinated in citrus and has onions and tomatoes and cilantro and stuff. I'm not a big fish guy, but I will eat ceviche. It is delicious. Another one that I like is tallarines verdes. Not a la huacaína. Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Holy shit. This is spaghetti with huacaína sauce, which is like a cheese sauce. But tallarines verde is essentially just it's just pesto pasta, but we throw a big old slab of steak on it. And usually it's served with like potatoes as well. But yeah, something like this, right? A little fettuccine with a steak on there. Maybe bread the steak. My Spanish is más o menos. I understand Spanish more than I feel comfortable speaking it. Um, but yeah, delicious. We also have like arroz con pollo, which is a pretty traditional dish. It's basically just like yellow rice with a big old hunk of chicken in it. You see in a theme here? We just take a thing and then throw a bunch of meat on it. And that's kind of the thing. And you're not going to see a ton of vegetables. Another one is arroz verde, which is like a kind of like a cilantro rice. It's pretty good. Quinoa. I don't think quinoa is big in Peru. Um, what else? What else is good? Oh, so we have anticuchos. This is an appetizer, which I don't tell people what it is until they eat it. But this is it's beef heart. Okay, and it sounds weird and gross, but the way it is cooked in Peru is delicious. Um, Oftentimes served with corn or potatoes. As you see here, this big corn here is called choclo. It is the kernels are extremely large. Peru has all of these different microclimates, and so there's a huge variety of fruits and vegetables that are available in Peru. Lots of different varieties of potatoes and corn, and lots of stuff. There's a famous chef, Gaston. I have about 8 minutes left. Gaston Acurio. You might have heard of some of his restaurants like Tanta, La Mar in San Francisco. This guy's one of like the preeminent Peruvian chefs. I think two of his restaurants are in the top 10 in the world. And one of his proteges is also, yes, Gaston is amazing. He does have a Tanta here in Chicago, which is very good. It's like his take on Peruvian street food. But I don't remember the name. Central restaurant in Peru. This is also in the top 10. Virgilio Martinez is the guy, and this guy is a protege of Gaston. If you've ever seen the Netflix show, help me out, chat. What's the Netflix show? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Netflix food show. Chef's Table. Chef's Table. There's an episode of Chef's Table that features Central and Virgilio, and he essentially sources all his ingredients throughout Peru, and each dish on the menu is based on like one of the microclimates in Peru, and like the elevation. So Peru is very mountainous, and it's also like on the ocean, and there's deserts, and there's mountains, and there's jungle, and there's everything, right? And so each dish is very unique because the ingredients are sourced in a specific location. And it looks very wild. Like he uses very like non-traditional ingredients, like stuff you would just look at it and be like, ugh. But by all accounts, this place is amazing. And it's very it's tough to get a table there. I think this is his sister, and she works with him to like source the ingredients and stuff. But anyways, there's an episode of Chef's Table on Netflix that talks about this place, and I think even Gaston is like in awe of this guy, the stuff that he does, because it's wildly different from Gaston's style. It's much more like what's the term? Like you know, the little tiny portions and stuff like that. Gaston's is like what your grandma, like kind of a modern spin on like what your grandma would make, right? Whereas this is much more experimental. Yeah, it's very beautiful, like the way that they played out. Like, look at just the attention to detail here. It's very, um, uh, it's very gastronomy. Yes, that's exactly. But it's like I don't know. Oh, but look at this. This is I don't know if this is the menu, but it's essentially like you know. Oh, and this is a cookbook. Interesting. So he has all of the different recipes, but this stuff is wild. It's so wild. But yeah, this is like apparently one of the top 10 restaurants in the world. I have not eaten there. I have eaten at several of Gaston. Gaston has a so there's also, like I said, there's a large Chinese population in Peru, and we have a style of Chinese food called chifa, uh, which is that's not it. Chifa cuisine. Maybe I spelled it wrong. I think it's just chifa with Chifa, right? So this is Peruvian Chinese food. Looks just like any old Chinese food, but it's like with a Peruvian twist to it. And so it also incorporates different influences of like Italian, like Japanese, all sorts of things. So you get like lots of like noodle dishes, and but Gaston has a Peruvian chifa restaurant called Madame Toussaint, which is very good. He has a lot of different kind of like concept restaurants in Peru. Anyways, this is making me super hungry. Uh, Abstract. Abstract. Oh, that's the design one. Yeah, I heard good things about that. That's another great Netflix show. Uh, I have to depart. I have a one-on-one meeting in roughly 3 minutes, and but yes. So if you got anything out of this stream, it's find your local Peruvian restaurant. Crazy Delicious. I have seen episodes of that. Also, Chef Show. Is that what it's called? Chef Show with John Favreau and oh, what's his name? Uh, the other chef. This is a great show. It's just like John and this guy hanging out in their house, making dishes, having their famous friends over, like Gwyneth Paltrow and you know folks like that. And it's a lot of fun. Uh, John did a movie called Chef, right, where he had a food truck that made like Cuban sandwiches and stuff. And Roy is his name. Roy Choi is the chef. He was basically a consultant because he started out with like this Korean food truck, and really cool, just really fun show. Oh, this is a good one he did with Bill Burr, where they're just like messing around in the kitchen making stuff. He did one with Seth Rogen, but yeah, they make some really fun stuff, and it's just kind of a cool, chill show. I need to catch up on it because they've just been cranking these episodes out. But yeah, another good Netflix show. Anyways, I have to go. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I really appreciate it. Today was a lot of fun. We had a lot of activity in the chat, and that really made my Friday. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Look up Peruvian restaurants in your area, or Peruvian recipes. You can make this stuff at home. There's tons of Peruvian cookbooks. And yeah, I'll see you next Friday. I'll try to add even more festive stuff as we approach Christmas, whether or not you celebrate. I'm not particularly religious, but you know, we have fun. So take care, everyone. I will catch you next time.